Week 17 of the fantasy football season with championship games this week. Is the top 15 tight ends I'm ranking this week. Number 1, Trey McBride of the Arizona Cardinals. So last week it was a bad game, no doubt about it, for Trey McBride. They double-teamed him. Pretty much the whole game was the Atlanta Falcons and forced Jacoby Brissett to go other areas of the field. So I think this week Arizona is going to make adjustments. McBride's easily been the number 1 tight end all season long in fantasy football. And this week it's a great matchup with the Cincinnati Bengals, a defense that can't stop anyone. Number 2, George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers. Ever since Brock Purdy's been back in the lineup the last couple weeks, Kittle's going out there and put up huge numbers for this 49er team of fantasy owners. The only thing, he's got a low ankle sprain that made him leave the game early last week at the Indianapolis Colts. If he can't give it a go, obviously he's not going to be a top tight end this week as George Kittle, but this week if he's in the lineup, it's a great matchup versus Chicago Bears. Their defense has been hit or miss all season long. And like I said, George Kittle, when healthy, even though it's a big if at times throughout his career, he's been one of the more dominant tight ends in this era. Number 3, Kyle Pitts of the Atlanta Falcons. So the last month of the season, Kyle Pitts has definitely turned things around. And I think that has a lot to do with Kirk Cousins back in the lineup, where him and Michael Penix, they just weren't connecting. They weren't making plays. And also Drake London missing a few games before he returned last week as well helped Kyle Pitts go out there and put up some huge numbers. And also a contract season. So this week in a matchup with the Rams coming in, Monday Night Football, you know, this Ram defense has been leaky over the last couple of weeks. And Kyle Pitts, when he gets going, you know he's a matchup problem. Safeties, linebackers can't cover him. And this week versus the Rams, I think he could go out there once again, especially if they're chasing points, and get his numbers. Number 4, Harold Fannin Jr. of the Cleveland Browns. So Fannin Jr., the only bright spot in this offense this season for this Brown team. And ever since week 1, he's been going out there and he's been productive. And obviously with David Njoku, a free agent after the season, and he's banged up now, I don't believe they're going to bring him back as this Brown team. Harold Fannin's the tight end they want in this lineup, and a guy who's going to go out there and make plays. And this week versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, in a matchup most likely chasing points, you pretty much could pencil in Fannin for 12 to 15 fantasy points. Number 5, Brock Bowers of the Vegas Raiders. So maybe I'm lower on Bowers than consensus, but Bowers, it seems like one good week, one bad week. And for the majority of this season and the games he's played, he's been a touchdown-dependent tight end as Bowers. So last year, with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, he put up huge numbers, and obviously the league didn't expect it from him, but the league adjusted this season as well, and his numbers are down, but he's still a very productive tight end. But I just don't think elite numbers week in and week out you're going to get for him. But this week it is a good matchup with the Giants coming to town. Number 6, Juwan Johnson of the New Orleans Saints. Johnson having a good season. Number 2 option in the passing game behind Chris Olave. And a young quarterback like Tyler Shuck, you know, the security blanket and best friend at times, and security blanket in tough situations and key third downs is going to be the tight end position. So Johnson had a big game last week. This week another good matchup on paper at the Tennessee Titans, and I think he goes out there, has a good performance. Number 7, Dalton Schultz of the Houston Texans. So Schultz, he's been the number 2 option pretty much the whole season behind Nico Collins in the passing game for this Houston Texan team. So this week a mediocre matchup at the Los Angeles Chargers. Their defense is a good unit, in my opinion, is Los Angeles. But Dalton Schultz, like I said, he's pretty much been a tight end that's going out there weekly, at least finding the end zone, or at least putting 10 or more fantasy points up in PPR leagues. And anytime you're in an offense as a number 2 option, you're just going to work your way into volume and targets, and also an indoor ball game helps as well. Number 8, Brenton Strange of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Arguably, he's the number 2 option as well in his offense is Brenton Strange behind Jacoby Myers. So Strange, he's been solid in the games he's played this season. We know he missed a lot of ball games early in the year with injury is Strange. Last week he had a good game at Denver, found the end zone in that one. And this week it's a good matchup with the Colts where they can't stop anyone over the last few weeks. And we just saw George Kittle go in there for 110 and a touchdown. Number 9, Tyler Warren of the mentioned Indianapolis Colts. So this week with the Jacksonville Jaguars coming in, they know they got to put points on the board. Jacksonville over the last few weeks, they're easily averaging over 30 points a game as this Jaguar offense. So Tyler Warren, we know he's a matchup problem. We know he's having a good rookie season, and definitely with Daniel Jones out for the season, the offense took a hit. But last week it wasn't the offense that was the problem. It was the defense of the Colts, where Phillip Rivers, I thought, a majority of the game, he ran that offense well. He was making the reads. He was making the right plays. And Tyler Warren was making some plays as well. So this week in a matchup, chasing points, I still think he could go out there and be productive. Number 10, Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. So Goddard, yes, he's been a touchdown-dependent tight end over the last month of the season, where A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith have really boosted up their numbers, and Hurts didn't want to hear him anymore. So he's definitely forcing the football to those two receivers at times as well. But this week in a matchup where it's most likely going to be high scoring at the Buffalo Bills, I think Goddard once again could have a solid performance. Number 11, Hunter Henry of the New England Patriots. So this week a great matchup at the New York Jets. Henry the number 2 option in this passing game. And Drake May, believe it or not, he's only in his second year, where obviously it looks like he's a grizzled vet who's played this game for 10 seasons. So a young quarterback's going to rely on the tight end as a security blanket in the red zone in tough situations. So this week at the Jets, I like Henry to go out there as a top 12 option. 12, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. So last week, a horrible game it was for the Chiefs. Now Minshew went down with the injury, and now down to third-string quarterback Chris Okongon is this Kansas City Chiefs team. And this week, a very tough matchup versus the Broncos, but this Bronco defense has been leaky at times this season. We saw Brenton Strange go out there and put up numbers. I'm not saying Kelsey's going to put up huge numbers with a third-string quarterback, but I'm saying there's going to be some garbage time and some openings for him in this game. 13, Taysom Hill of the New Orleans Saints. I know last week a lot of touches out of the backfield carrying the football, caught a couple passes as well, and had a couple throw attempts as Taysom Hill, but we just don't know weekly for sure what his role is going to be. We know obviously Kamara most likely not coming back this season. Devin Neal out for the season, and estimate they don't like getting a lot of touches, and that's why Hill did last week. But obviously just we don't know week to week what his role is going to be 100%, and that's something we saw last season. So that's why Hill to me is at 13. 14, Darren Waller of the Miami Dolphins. So he's been hit or miss as well, Waller, in the games he's played, even though he's been a very injury-prone tight end throughout his career. But in the games he's played, he's been productive for the most part. Last week he got off to a hot start, and then this offense just stopped putting up points on the board versus Cincinnati Bengals. So this week it is a decent matchup versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think Darren Waller is a back-end option. Calhoun is in the 15th and final tight end, Colston Loveland of the Chicago Bears. So this week, decent matchup with the 49ers. Loveland, the talent's there. Just we have to see more consistency and more targets, and him finding easier ways to get open, even though Caleb Williams does hold on to the football at times and takes big hits. But this week, Colston Loveland, like I said, his numbers haven't been great, but he's getting a majority of the snaps at the tight end position and the route participation. And this week at San Francisco, he cracks the top 15. So that's the top 15 tight ends I'm ranking for Week 17 of the fantasy football season.